Okay folks, I am the Photo Gamer and welcome to something a little bit different today. I am on the other side of my room, computer's over there, I'm over here, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Now, it was my birthday a few weeks ago, and my friend Chatty, who you've seen me do some Minecraft stuff with, sent me a little present through the post, as we're in lockdown of course, so she couldn't actually give it to me. And it's this, it's a little Pac-Man ghosty thing in bricks, and today we're going to go through and try and get this built. So we're going to do this as a time lapse, so I'm just going to go through and we're going to build it. And to make things even more fun and complicated, I've set myself the challenge of doing this in my lunch breaks. I'm working from home at the moment, so this is my lunch break. So I've only got about 40 minutes to do this, so let's see how long it takes. So let's get building. And of course, where does any good build start? Of course, you take everything out of the box and you read the instructions, or at least you have a glance at them. Pretty interesting instruction set, as we'll discover as I go through this. I'll make a few little silly mistakes, but before we get going, it's probably best to sort out all the pieces. That's what I'm going to start by doing. Obviously, this is a nice little time lapse. I thought I'd give a go with a time lapse on this one. It took me most of my lunch break, obviously recording the little voiceover after the fact. It took me most of my lunch break to go through this. It was quite an interesting fiddly little thing though. The blocks are quite small. They're obviously very similar to a certain popular building block toy, whose name we won't mention, but they're very, very much smaller, so quite fiddly. But we're sorting through all the pieces, and there's a lot of pieces. I think there's a couple of hundred pieces to this thing. So it's always a good idea to sort through them all before you start, of course. Known as knolling, if you've ever watched any of Savage's videos, which I have an awful lot of. And you can also see all my other model collections sitting in the back, which I've been building whilst we've been in lockdown. This is the thing at the moment, being in lockdown, as we are in the UK, there's not very much that we can go and do, so finding things to do indoors, or on your one allowed exercise trip per day, has been quite challenging, I'm not going to lie. And I've got a few other model making things coming as well. As you can probably see if you have a quick look in the background, you get a little preview of one of what's coming up. As I say, this was a birthday present, so thank you Chatty for that one. Really grateful you got that one through the post to me. And we're almost at the end of getting all this stuff sorted. You can see how many different pieces there are and how many little pieces there are. Some of these pieces are tiny, really tiny. Okay, so we can think about now, as we've almost got all the pieces sorted, actually starting to assemble. So, as we have a close-up look at how we put this thing together, the first couple of rows I found were a little bit fiddly. The instructions also kept catching me out slightly, because each of those little squares you can see on the instruction sheet is actually for two layers. The coloured layer that's on the top, and then the coloured layer that's sort of suspended above. And I always kept missing out putting on that bottom of the two layers, so I always kind of jumped ahead of it because I just completely forgot that that bottom layer was one of the ones I had to assemble as part of that step. So it was a bit of a pain, but you know, it's semi-puzzle like, these things, so they're not designed to be too easy. Apologies, my hands are in the way for an awful lot of this, but it's such a fiddly little thing to build. And unfortunately, doing this in this back room, I'm a bit limited in where I can put the camera. I mean, better if the camera had been on the other side, but unfortunately, it's a solid wall, so I can't put the camera there, so sorry about that. Hopefully you can see what we're doing. Nice little fun thing to do. It's a little bit of fun, that's what we need right now. Okay, so almost completed the first two layers. You have to kind of build those two together because they hold each other together. So getting these fiddly little bits to all click in. It gets a bit easier as you get further along. Okay, there we go. So that's the first couple of layers in. Now we can start building up the next lot, and this is where I make my first mistake. I start building layer number 4 before layer number 3, and I have to start peeling things off. One thing I have discovered, getting these blocks apart, as you can see, is a bit tricky. They don't come apart that easily. You can see I'm having to take a layer off because I got it, I skipped a step by mistake, so I just have to take them off, partially disassemble it, put it back together again, and start from scratch. Once I got about 4 or 5 layers up, it was a bit more solid and a bit easier to correct my mistakes, because I still made a few of them as we went through this. Okay, so we're now sort of on layer 3, getting it right this time. I think layer 4 will go on shortly, and then things start to get a bit more stable. One of the advantages with a lot of this is it's fairly symmetrical, so once you know what you're doing on one side, when you get in the swing of it, it actually goes together really quite easily. You know what you're doing. I haven't done any Lego stuff for years. Oh, I was going to try not to mention its name, never mind. I have now. I haven't done any of that for a long time. This obviously isn't the same thing, but it's the same principle. Okay, so we're about 4 layers up now. I'm starting to look a little bit more solid. Now we've got some colour going in with the bottom of the eyes. Again, I kind of, you can see I turned the page over and I'd completely forgotten to do a whole layer there. Totally forgotten the layer. Again, I realised once I'd done a little bit, I think actually, yeah, that's where I clicked in that I'd missed a layer. I had to start peeling it apart again, and those 2 white blocks just would not come apart, so I ended up having to scratch them and go and get another one, so I can carry on separate them later. I'll go back and correct the layer that I missed. See the eyes starting to take shape of our little Pac-Man bad guy, as these things are. Starting to take shape now, see the eyes coming together. Starting to take shape now. We're getting quite close to the top. It starts to get a bit easier now. We start to go in, form the top shape. Top of the eyes. Again, I think I got that slightly wrong. I had to backtrack. Starting to get a little awkward here, and we're actually getting to a point where the instructions asked me to do something pretty gravity-defying. I think it might be on the next layer up from where I am now. It wanted me to attach some pieces sort of with nothing underneath them, so they had to hover in mid-air. I think we might be a couple more blocks away from where that is, but it wanted me to attach a couple of pieces in mid-air with nothing underneath them, so that was a bit... I don't know whether that's a little bit of an oversight in the instructions there, or whether they sort of wanted you to figure out that you kind of had to just to hold them until the next layer and clip them to the bottom of the pieces above, but it seemed a bit of an oversight. I think we're almost at that point now where it wanted me to defy the laws of gravity. A couple of blocks stay in mid-air. In fact, I think you'll see me in a second start to pull things apart and try and figure out whether I've missed something or made a mistake because of this gravity-defying bit of work. I think it's the next layer. It wanted me to hover. Yeah, there we go. That's me trying to figure out whether I've made a mistake here or whether I'm just being a bit thick. Trying to work out how to make all these little pieces fly. In the end, I decided to start building up the next layer and then attach them to the bottom of the pieces above, which held them in. That got us around that problem. A little bit of fiddling out whether I had made an error at that point. Eventually we cracked it. It's starting to take proper shape now. I do like doing models and doing model making, and even something like this, which is relatively straightforward compared to a lot of the stuff. The stuff you saw in the background in the first video is all built completely from scratch. This is a little bit different. I've got some kit builds as well, but I do like doing things like this. So you're going to see more and more of these on the channel. I'm going to start doing a bit more of this kind of stuff. We're going to do some details on the bottom of it now as the final step. I'm going to start doing more and more of these on the channel. Do some more model making stuff and some vlogs and things like that, as well as the gaming stuff. We're going to carry on with Minecraft. We're going to carry on with Alone Dark. But we're going to do some model making as well, and we're going to get out. Once we're out of lockdown, I was planning on doing some vlogs out on the water with a kayak that I've got. But obviously in lockdown we can't do that. But there we go, we are almost done. So I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me for this fairly simple little build video, but I really hope you found it interesting. A bit of time-lapse practicing as well, building this little display item for my shelf. But thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you again very, very soon.